What's going on, guys? Welcome to another video. I'm your boy NarikChase, and in this video we are going to be doing another TV show review, and this time we're reviewing Being Human, the UK version. Being Human UK version was the original Being Human series before the America came out with its remake. And if you haven't seen my thoughts on the US version, go ahead and check out the link below, and I'll make sure y'all guys can get to it that much easier. But having said that, let's talk about the original. Being Human is about a werewolf, a ghost, and a vampire who end up standing together. They're trying to live actual human-like lives. There are a lot of negatives to it, so they are struggling with the day-to-day lives, having to deal with the supernatural aspect of themselves. The story itself is actually pretty interesting. It's really good, and it does go at a pretty good pace. There are some themes that the show definitely to touch on: bigotry, equal rights. There are some pretty important societal themes that the show does touch on. But for the most part, you are following these characters as they live their day-to-day lives. I really enjoyed the story for that aspect because it is so character-driven. The characters, for the most part, are actually well written. Now, when you think of Being Human, the UK version, I like to take into consideration the whole cast and the whole story. I like to think of it as two series. You have one that's following which is Annie, George, John, and Nina, and then you have what you consider, I guess, the actual season 2, which follows Tom, Hal, and Alex. Each one of these end up having to deal with different issues, which it does a great job of making these characters just feel so different, and the settings feel so different because they do end up having to go to different settings and things like that. But I'll go ahead and let's talk about the first initial characters. I thought they were really interesting characters. I thought they had great dynamics with each other. Yeah, George is this werewolf, and he doesn't want to be a werewolf, but he's dealing with being a werewolf, and he accidentally infects Nina and makes her a werewolf too. So they're this couple that they have to deal with the fact that they're werewolves. You have Annie, who's a ghost, and she's dealing with the fact that she's a ghost and isn't able to interact with real life people the way she wants to. But she does find comfort in interacting with John and George when they come and move into her home. And then you have John, who's this century-old vampire that's trying to live a normal life. He doesn't want to go to the bloodshed and the gore and stuff of his past. So he's dealing with those issues. They all have interesting backstories and interesting personalities, and I do like their dynamic together. Now on to the second part of the group, we do have Tom, Hal, and Alex. And I like Tom. Tom's this werewolf, and he's been raised to be like this vampire killer, but he learns while living with Hal that not all vampires are actual douchebags. You have Hal, who again is just a centuries-old vampire who has done some pretty bad stuff in his time, known as like the bloodiest of all vampires, but he's trying to settle down and live a normal life. And then of course you have Alex, who's this girl that is a newly turned ghost, so she's dealing with being a ghost and how she's not able to interact with the life that she once had. They are individuals, and they are pretty interesting. Their supporting cast of characters is actually just as interesting and really important. I really like most of the supporting characters on both ends of the spectrum. One of my favorite characters is Narik, who is John's maker, and he's just a complete dick, but he's an interesting character. He's a charismatic character, and I really love that about him. But each season does, of course, introduce more characters. Some are better than others, but for the most part, the characters are actually well written and well supported in the series. Now, if we're going towards the casting is really good. Most of these people are pretty new to me, but I really enjoyed the on-screen dynamic that they had and the way they portrayed the characters. You have Lenora Crichlow, Russell Tovey, Aidan Turner, Sinead Keenan, Michael Socha, Damien Molony, and Kate Bracken, just for the main cast. But I really did enjoy the characters and how they were able to bring these characters to life and adapt these characters over time, developing them, making them more interesting, making them more flawed, making them more deep. Really appreciate the performances in this series. Visually, the series does look pretty good. It does got like this kind of low budget feel to it, but I think that makes it feel like it's more personal, that it makes it feel a bit more grounded. The practical effects and CGI and stuff are actually pretty good. They're done really well, especially when it comes to the vampire aspects with the transformation. There's a lot of gore, there's a lot of blood, people die all the freaking time. The ghost effects are handled really well as well. Really, the only issue I have with the visuals is kind kind of the werewolf transformations because they look so cheesy. They look like crap most of the time. They look like just the lowest low budget stuff that you see out of the Howling series or something like that. But outside of that, the visual effects are pretty good. The soundtrack, of course, is good. It does a lot of great themes, especially when it comes to the more personal issues that these characters have to deal with, or to the day to day. When there are moments where there are levity of happiness and joy and humor, there's definitely got that in it. Really appreciate the score as well. Now let's talk about the writing. The writing is probably the biggest problem I have with this show because it introduces a lot of interesting aspects. The characters are well written. The overall setting is actually pretty interesting. The dialogue is pretty witty at times, but it can be deep and meaningful. So the dialogue is actually pretty good. Really, the only problem with the writing is the fact that it lacks consistency. There are elements that are just constantly thrown into this, and some of them are actually pretty interesting, but there's a lot of inconsistencies, especially when it comes to each one of these different species that are in this, because, I mean, there are ghosts, there are werewolves, there are vampires, and it seems like every season's the rules for each species are established, but then there's something that changes it in the next season, like just out of the blue. And it's interesting to some extent, but they're at the same time it's very inconsistent. Like characters that shouldn't be able to do things end up doing things, and it's like okay, that doesn't really make sense for them to do that because it's already established that they're required to do this. Or characters end up doing a thing where it's like, okay, I don't understand how that person did that, because if they are this thing, how could they do that? So they really don't establish everything with the characters, and at the same time, when they do establish things, they seem to kind of go left field a lot of times. There's also this weird prophecy that's in this story, and it doesn't really seem like a prophecy, because you would think that with all the people and the population size, like this stuff probably would happen, and it seems like it's only solely focused on them. And it's like, if this has been going on as long as the show has established it to be going on, I'm quite sure they're not the first three that have done this, which again is emphasized by the fact that, okay, the first season was a werewolf, a vampire, and a ghost, and then the second season part of it is a werewolf, a ghost, and a vampire. So that little prophecy thing I felt was a little bit much. Kind of the last. I mean, like I said, each season does introduce new things and interesting things, and I like that about this. And they're not afraid to take this into some very weird directions, but they're actually pretty interesting concept. As far as the story arc, the main story arc for like the last season, probably like the weakest one to me, because it kind of didn't make sense, but it's tied into this whole prophecy thing. They could have done a lot better. Good characters that get killed off in this series, and those moments are actually pretty emotionally draining, because I was sitting there, eyes watering, tearing up in my eyes and stuff like that. So I really did enjoy this series. I thought it was just as great as the American version. So guys, in the end, Being Human, the UK version, is actually a really good and a very interesting series. I do feel that the US version is a bit more grounded when it comes to the writing and the setup. And I like the fact that, yes, this is the UK version, so there are some new elements into it that are actually pretty cool. I do like the characters. The casting was good visually. It's a great show. The music that they have is done well. Really, the biggest problem I have is kind of with the writing, but it's still an enjoyable watch. The final verdict, Being Human, the UK version, definitely deserves a 3 out of 5. If you like the US version, you'll most likely like this version, and I highly recommend it, guys. It's a good show. Go definitely check it out. It's deep. It has great characters, and like I said, it's an interesting concept all around. So, guys, in the comment section below, let me know, what are your thoughts about Being Human, the UK version? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Tell me which season was your favorite season, as well as which one of the characters were your favorite characters. And we'll definitely catch you guys later. Be sure to hit that like, share, subscribe, and the notification button to get more content here on our channel. Catch you guys later.